Tell me when you're ready and I will let people in.
Just give us 1 second, Greg, because I just need to get that. I just need to share the presentation one, which is that one. Is that showing you the presentation now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Then I'm going to put this one onto this screen. And I'm going to put this screen over here, over there, so I can see humans. Let them in, Greggy boy.
They're on their way.
Feel free to add your videos. We'll get started at 2 minutes past 11. Very specific, but yeah, 2 minutes past 11, just to give people a chance to get into the session. And they're on the way in. Nice. Jules, this is the hardest part for me because I've got to stay quiet for a bit.
This is why I've muted myself. Otherwise, I will be filling in silence, having a lovely chat with you.
Yeah. So, Greg, I believe that the recording's already started, mate. If you could just check that that's the case, I think it is.
Right. Yeah, it says it in the chat.
Yeah, lovely, jubbly. So, yeah, Greg, I don't have any access to the chat during this, mate. So, anything that pops into there, if you can just give us a little update, that'll be muchio appreciatio.
Will do.
Thank you, Michelle and Neil, for being keen and getting on time. Always makes it easier. Hi, Ali. Welcome. Thanks for coming on time, mate.
If you had a haircut today, very dapper. Oh, I don't know if you can.
He's on mute, but we can take it off for a second if we can.
People can unmute now. I've put the setting over.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Ali, you okay, mate?
There we go.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Hello. How's it doing? Yeah, I've been streamlined. I was attacked with a hedge trimmer.
Me too.
How you guys going? You good?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Feeling love. I think we've got about 20 odd people due to come on, so we'll just give them a little minute, mate, to come in, and then we'll kick off the whole session. Any of the people who are coming in, feel free to add on your cameras. It's nice when you speak to a human instead of just a camera. I think we've got about another 12 due to come on, so we'll just give them. I did say 11:02 on my little notes there, but we might just move it on a minute just to give people a chance. You know what it's like with teams, it ends up being back to back.
You maybe got my
Do you-
notification. I arrived early, Craig. Did you?
I love that. Love all that.
Tried to log in at 10 past 10 after
I saw that.
the
Yeah.
meeting started. Yeah.
Yeah, the Q&A started straight away, and I was like, "Oh, who's that?"
Yeah. I was like, why is nobody else on this call? Clocks went back on Sunday, and I've been out of sync ever since.
You know, it actually really threw me this year with the clocks. I just hadn't literally clocked it. I was like, oh, there we go. Who knew?
You clocked it. I mean, seriously, you said that.
I did say it, Wayne. I didn't even mean to.
No,
That's just how
genius.
this session's going to go today, guys. So
That's pretty slick. That's slick.
I tried.
Oh, dear
Oh
God.
dear.
Right.
Back of the room, honestly.
Greg, so as people come in, just keep letting them in, mate. That'll be absolutely fine. Obviously, the session today is unlocking success for Jan and Feb, and it's the power of KPIs. So we've got some industry legends on. So we've got Julie Allen from Active Insights, who does everything customer service. We have Wayne Heath from Clubright, who obviously couldn't find anything on the market, so he decided to make something. And you have me, which is just Craig, which is absolutely fine. So the idea about what we're going to do, obviously, if anyone wants to put the videos on, more than welcome. The Q&A is open if there's anything that crops up or you want to write anything in, and obviously we'll come back to that as we get towards the end. We will be recording everything, and you'll be getting the link after the session. So let's get started. So what will we cover? So first of all, at the very end, we're going to give you, there's a free overview, there's an infographic that we're going to give you, and there's a few bits and pieces about the process that we'll send over to you. What we're going to cover today is the KPI process. So what is the KPI process? You know, the why do we bother doing it? And what should we be looking at? We then break that down. So for each of the areas, I'm going to go through the two. There's going to be a lot more gravitas thrown at the top two. But there are other KPIs in there. Now, what's really important about KPIs is that it's what's important to you. So what we're going to be showing you or going through today, I'm not saying that these are correct for your business. I am saying these are the ones that tend to come up the most when I do work with organizations around KPIs. So KPI, what's really the most important thing is that the key to you, right? So we'll also talk through a balanced scorecard and how we pull that all together to stop us getting dragged all over the businesses and doing lots and lots of different things. And this is the infographic that you'll get in the end, which will give you an overview of the service, operations, product, marketing and sales, KPIs, and who can help you with each of those from the three organizations which are on the session. So the KPI process. So to me, the first thing is this: it's what's key to your business. So when I go into organizations, the most important thing about this is that your staff will know what the key important things are. So I'm a big fan of working with organizations and driving it up from the bottom. Those people who are on the Sunday night shift, those people who are on the Saturday mornings, the Tuesday mornings, who are on the ground and on the floor all the time, is letting them help decide what is key to your business. But like I said before, what's the things that I mentioned today, these might not be key to yourselves. There's a high likelihood that they will come up. I've never, out of the 5 that you've got on the screen, when we go through these, some of them always crop up, but it's about what's key to your business as an individual. Now, I often tell the story here. You may have seen it. There's a professor, and he had a load of students in front of him. He had a massive vase and he put some rocks into it. And he basically says to the students at the end of it, is it full? Students say yes. And he then gets a load of pebbles, puts them in, shakes it round. They all move round, go into the vase. Is it full? The students say yes. He then gets some sand, puts it in, shakes it round again. Is it full? The students say yes. And then at the end, he pours some water in. Now, the key thing about this whole process is the rocks are the most important things, and you can't get them in last, right? They have to go in first, and they have to be the key things that you concentrate on. So throughout this presentation, if you hear me talking about rocks, it's the key, massive, most important things. The second phase of the KPI process is how you're going to measure it. So what's really, really important is that it is measurable and it's easy. It needs to be black and white. It needs to be yes or no. So how are you going to measure that key part of the KPI? Then what will it look like? how will it be visualized? Is this going to be graphical? You know, in this day and age, every one of you should have dashboards in your business. Now, what's really important about a dashboard is that it's live. Now, the dashboard on my car, it's no point telling me that I was speeding yesterday, right? It needs to tell me I'm speeding now so I can action it and do something about it. At a time when it's important. Again, if my car tells me that I ran out of petrol yesterday, I'm probably on the motorway still. So it's really important that how does this look? How can you draw the information from it? And it should be really quick with the most important bits of your business on there. Then how are you getting on? Right, so how are you actually performing? So where's that line in the sand? Where are you now? What's happening? Are you better now than you were yesterday? Are you better this month than you were the previous month? How are you performing across all these different really important measures? Then what are you going to do about it? So if you know some information, then what you're going to do, and we'll get stuck into this as we start to go through. And then what's really, really important with KPIs, I go into organizations and they've had the KPI for like 10 years. And I'm like, is that still key? Is that really still the most important thing in your business? Now, you know, the KPIs themselves, it's all about the opportunities to improve your service, your standards, the revenue, all these different bits and pieces. So are they still really the key things? And are we looking forward, which you'll see as we go through this process. So that's the KPI process. Now, the why. So, right, as a consultant, and I'm sure, Jules, you see this as well, and Wayne, you see this when you go into different businesses, accountability is absolutely key. So who owns that particular thing? Who owns, you know, feedback's going to come out throughout this process without a shadow of a doubt. But who owns it? Right. And so the accountability at each level of the business, it doesn't matter whether you've got one member of staff, whether you've got 3 members of staff, or whether you've got 50. Every single person should be owning something, right? And the key as the manager is not to own and do everything. It's about making sure that everyone else does it. But the key behind this is that we've got to know who owns the stuff. Then years and years ago, we used to have a lot more staff than what we had now. So what happened is someone leaves, we then basically go, I'll tell you what, we won't replace them. We'll just spin a few more plates and we'll share these things out between us. Now, this keeps happening until you realize you can't really share anymore. But the key is, if you haven't got enough staff, or we haven't got as many staff as we used to, then we have to be doing the key bits. We have to be doing the rocks. Now, I went into an organization not that long ago. I sat down with 5 different departments, and we created the 5 most important things in their business. Now, not one of those things were live in their organization. So out of 25 of the most important things for that business, not one of them was live. So my question is always this: well, if you're busy, what are you doing then? If you're not concentrating on the rocks or the most important bits, what are you concentrating on? Is it that thing that you've always done, which sometimes becomes the problem too? So, and the next bit is, are you heading in the right direction? And I say here, facts, not feelings. So to me, this is massively, massively important. It's about, it's the business telling us that we're heading in the right direction. So it's really important that we don't sit around waiting for information, that we go out and get it. Okay. So the what of the KPIs. Now, service, operations, product, marketing, and help. I call it help because people get scared by the word sales. But sales to me is just helping people to join. Now, the reason why they're in this order, so service is the first impression. So to me, this is the first thing that's going to sort of give people that indication of what your business is like. So that's why I often go into organizations, and this probably happens to you, Julie, as well, where they'll go in and say, right, I need to improve sales. And you're like, no, you need more sales in, but that's not normally what you need to improve. So service is the first thing. I'm a big fan of putting the plug in the bath first. Before I start throwing people into the organization, let's put the plug in. At home, you wouldn't run the bath with the plug out. So let's get it in. Let's make sure we're going to keep hold of stuff. So services first, then operations, which is the cleaning, the safe, the reputation. We'll go through that. Product, which is really the thing that they join for. Okay, so again, massively important. And then what we have at the end is marketing. So marketing starts to drive the footfall and then helping people to live longer, right? Which is them joining or coming into sales. So that's the reason why we have it. That is the what, and that's the order that we're going to go through. So service KPIs. Now, what I've done in this, you'll see at the end of each one, it gives a little bit of a breakdown out of who are the 3 companies can help you with each one of these. Now, the first one, to me, this is probably one of the most important things in the whole organization, and this is feedback. Now, I don't know what number of feedback you get. So, you know, we've got a couple of organizations on from different sizes. So you've got someone like Ali on who's on from sort of Dundee, and there's a high likelihood that you have anywhere between, I don't know, 500,000 to 1 million visits. Now, if you're having 1 million visits, how much feedback should you get? I went into an organization the other week who'd had around about 1 million visits, and the previous month they'd had 6 bits of feedback. Now, I don't know, but if you're having 70,000, 100,000 visits a year, you know, within a month, I don't think 7 cuts the mustard. What that taught me is that they're not going out and actively trying to get feedback, right? So what's really, really important is there, are we, you know, is there a plan over the next 2 months to make sure we've covered every single class on the timetable? Are we asking people as they come in? Are we asking people when they're new in their journey and they've got the fresh eyes and they can see the things that sometimes we might not be doing? And again, this is really, really key, Julie, right? Is that, you know, this is, you know, part of the bread and butter of what you do in Active Insight, but you've got to know what people feel and what they think. You've only got to watch Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares for him to know he's going to go around the town and find out what's happening, right? He's not going to sit there waiting for it. So, you know, feedback to me, absolutely huge. Now, what's really important about it is how much feedback are you getting? Yes, massively important. But what is it? You know, now I always say this, right? I don't know how many of your customers join because of accidents, but you probably record accidents amazingly well. Right, so we'll know slips, trips, falls, whereabouts it was, and we'll know them brilliantly, but that's not why they're joining, right? We only do that because we have to, but feedback is essential. Now, is it staff? Is it service? Is it cleaning? Is it maintenance? Is it the facilities? And I always have this question as well, is what procedures changed last month because you listened, right? And if you are listening, then you'll be changing stuff. So absolutely massive. And obviously in the Q&A at the end, please ask questions because Jules can give us loads of information on this. The next one I've got is called SWIO. A little bit weird, but the idea behind this is, so when I worked for McDonald's, we used to do this thing called observational checklists. So if it didn't matter where I was in that building, I would be managed and trained about 3 to 4 times a week. Now, SWIO is, I've always used this in leisure. I write on a piece of paper, SWIO, I put 10 lines in, and then what I quickly do, I check whether the receptionist was smiling, welcome them using the name, using eye contact, offering them something and saying bye. Now, there was a study done by Paul Bedford and Melvin Hilsden 17, 18 years ago. It was also redone about 12 years ago. And what they've been saying for all that time is if we say hello and bye, people will stay for longer. We still don't do it and we don't measure it. Now, again, I always say this as well, right? So I always measure how long it takes someone to give me eye contact and to smile when I walk into any organization, part of one of the checks or tests that I do. Now, if you've got a girl on reception or a lad on reception, he's sitting there and they're like, and they've got, I call them Rennie, right? So what I mean by it's like they only smile when they've got wind, right? But to me, some people are born to smile, some people aren't. But if I've got someone who's, let's call them Les Miserable, right? So let's say they're not too happy on reception. If I can explain to them that for only 3 out of 10, 30% of the time they were smiling, can I now try and get them to 40? Right? Now, getting them straight to 100 is not going to happen, so don't kid yourself. But can I get them to 40? Once I've got them to 40, can I get them to 50? And it's great to sit down with people, and it's a really, really quick measure of, are we providing a good service, right? Are we smiling? Are we happy? Are we saying goodbye? These really, really simple tools that we can do. It's a no-brainer. It's something you should all be doing.
Great. Can I just jump in here? And sorry, I've done really well to stay quiet, haven't I, so far? But Wayne's like, here we go, Jules. But I think it's really important on the 2 points that you've raised here. And firstly, thanks for a fantastic intro to the session today, because, you know, really clear on how we're going to cover these KPIs to support our operators on the call today. So firstly, in terms of feedback, you know, we're very much around, let's reposition this as your business intelligence, because that's exactly what it is. And Ali, it's great to have you on the call today, actually. And I might pull on you a few times if you don't mind, in the sense of, you know, we've done a lot of work with Sport Aberdeen in terms of your customer experience, designing it and how we're going to measure and manage that. And to your point, Craig, around the impact of that smile, I know we're going to come on to this a bit later on, but we conduct research all the time into consumer behaviours, and we have been looking at the difference between remaining inactive and becoming active. And there'll be no surprise when I share what I'm about to share with you guys today, but 67% of people who consider themselves to be inactive said the difference between remaining inactive and becoming active is that warm welcome at their activity. So absolutely, you know, when that smile isn't there, Craig, like you say, it really has an impact. So how can we move that forwards based on insight? I'll be quiet for a moment.
But but I think it's really important, Jules, is this, right? Is that if this is one of the most important things that we know needs to happen, then you've got to measure it. Right.
100%.
And
Yeah.
you will know certain staff might get 80, 90% all the time. Brilliant, keep it going. But then, you know, are they offering them things? If I went to a restaurant and I said I want a steak and they said, would you like some sauce? I wouldn't go, oh, you're selling me something, right? I'd go, you're trying to make me meal nicer. But in leisure, for some reason, we go, oh, no, we can't offer them. We can't do that. It's mental. But if you look at all the organisations, the likes of your Disney, the likes of your M&S, your likes of your Morrisons, you know, these sorts of organisations, Waitrose, these measure whether people smile or not, right? And funnily enough, that's why they get the results that they get. Another one, so members' average number of visits. So I won't give these as much gravitas, but please feel to ask questions at the end. This is, are they coming in more? You know, we know if they come in more, they've got more likelihood of hitting the results. So are you measuring it? Really, really important, trying to get that number up. Spend per swipe, absolutely huge. We're one of the only industries that doesn't measure this. And why? Right. So I remember when I was in LA Fitness, we used to say to people, would you like a water with your workout? And we went from selling £40 worth of water to nearly £800 worth of water in every site that we did it in. And it was like, it's the McDonald's tip, right? Is that a large? How many people have bought a large meal when they didn't want one?
Absolutely.
Especially hungover. But you get the idea.
Yeah.
So spend per swipe. Now, again, let's say you have 500,000 visits, right? And you can increase that by 10p. And I'm telling you, 10p is easy. By the time, you know, if someone joins on a swimming course, here's a swim starter pack, here's a spin starter pack where you get a gel seat because your bum's going to kill you for the first 2 weeks, and 2 water bottles because you're going to need it, and a towel to wipe you, whatever, right? But there's loads and loads of things we can do. If you can get that up by 10p, it's worth £50,000. Right, it's really
it's
important.
all small amounts, isn't it? At the end of the day, small amounts can actually add up really quickly.
But it helps people as well, you know, selling them a little locker coin if you've got lockers and that type of, because I'm always loving forgetting them and I've never got a pound on me and what have you. So that type of stuff. And then obviously it's what Jules was hitting on there. It's this customer experience. It's the insight of all this valuable information at this early part of the journey and knowing what's going on. There'll be a lot more on that later on, Jules, when the questions sort of come about in bits and pieces. But yeah, really, really important that we do that type of stuff. So there's the first ones for service. So the next one is operations. So in here, well, cleaning, right? It's absolutely huge, right? Has anyone got laminate flooring at home? I know you're not going to answer me, but you get the idea. I've got a couple of thumbs up. Now, I've got laminate flooring in 2 rooms, and I get these little dust balls in the house, right? Now, there's only 4 of us in the house. And we have the odd friend come round and a few people come in and bits and pieces, but we still get them and it's a little bit of a pain. Now, could you imagine lying down on a sports hall floor, right, where you've got 600 people coming, you know, over a couple of days? It's absolutely massive. I do these things called fussy customer walks. Now, this is trying to look from a customer's perspective. So they lie down and do sit-ups. So what's above them in sit-ups? Spider's web, you know, things over there. I can see under the treadmill where all the rubbish has fell off the shoes because they're pounding on it and it just falls off the edge and goes down the bottom. They start, when I go to the showers and I see, I call it toe jam. Do you know what I mean? The bits off your socks. You know what I mean, though? It's the horrible stuff that you don't want to stand on, but you have to stand on it because it's on the floor. Right, so it gets squeegeed up, you know, toilets with yellow grout. You know what I mean by the yellow grout. You get the idea. So this type of stuff is really, really important, especially for the first impression side of things and keeping it up there. Now, induction training. This is one of my bugbears, and I've been, you know, national management trainer for a big organisation, LA Fitness, that type of stuff. I also, as a consultant, I work with about 100 different councils, trusts, universities throughout the UK. And sometimes I think that the organisations think an induction is how not to sue your own organisation, but not how to train the member of staff. So what do I mean by that is normally it's 2 days of making them read a load of stuff and sign a load of forms. right? It's not, how do I do this? What are the 10 best questions I should ask when someone walks in? What's the five best questions I should say to someone when they're leaving, right? Do we teach them open question techniques, or do we just go, morning? Right? The key behind it, it's all massively important. The studies have proved the best question to ask someone when they're leaving is, when are you in next? Right? Now, if you say that to 100 people, and out of those 100 people, 4 of those said, oh, I said I was going to go in Thursday, I better go in. Right? Then you might just change the attrition by 4%. It's massive. It's huge. It starts to make sense. So training people in everything that they need to do, absolutely huge. Standards audits. So this is, to me, this is all about, it's not just cleaning, right? This is about, what do the posters look like? What do the boards look like? What does the desk look like? Are the leaflets all over the place? Are you advertising stuff that's not yours? You know, I see this all the time. You go into any 5-star hotel and it will not be advertising someone else's services, right? And especially not in the best areas in the building. So the key behind it, standards audits are really, really key. Now, checking of checks. Oh, this is the one that gets me. This is the one that people always say to me, what's the difference between a good organization and a not so good organization? And I'll go back to a story from when I very first started in McDonald's. So in McDonald's, the manager would say, right, I want you to do these jobs. I would then go up to this manager at the end of the session and I would say to them, right, I've done it. And they would go, right, come and show me. Right, and they'd go round and they'd say, right, under here, look under this, move this up. And it's what's called corrective coaching. Now, the very first time they corrective coached me, it probably took them 10 minutes. The second time probably took them 5. The second time took 2. Now, the reality is, the better I get and the more corrective coaching I get, and the less help and input I then end up needing. But checking of checks, you know, so I used to do this thing where if I've got a duty manager on shift, they would have to check 5 checks on that shift. Mm. And it might be uniform standards. It might be, has a certain job been done? It might be, you know, what prep's been done ready for the busy time of the day. But if they check 5 checks and I've got 1 on early, 1 on late, I know that's 10 checks happen today. I know that that's going to be, I've got 70 checks happening a week. Now, if you've got 70 checks being checked in the week, I bet your staff start to do their job. Yeah. So checking of the checks, just essential.
I think it's that classic, people do what you inspect, not what you expect, isn't it? Mm. So to have that structure in place, like you say, really does move it along.
Well, what I call it, Jules, I call it a business speed camera. So when you see a speed camera, what you do? Now, if you say slow it down, it's because you were doing the wrong thing in the first place, right? But
I didn't say anything.
Yeah. But the idea behind it, right, is that when you see a speed camera, you do what you're meant to. Now, we don't have enough staff or enough managers as well. So what do the police do? They have a removable speed camera when it's round a corner one day and it's like you go slow just in case. Mm. So I want my staff knowing that I'm always doing something. I'm always on the lookout. So that way, you know, the job is to do the job. It's absolutely fine. But maintenance downtime, big one. Go on Google, it's always up there. Next one. So I'm going to do a little tiny poll for this. I know there's not a million of us on here, but I just want to ask you this question. If I can launch that, has that now come up on your screens? And the question is this: what percentage of your members hit their goal last month? Please fire away and have a little vote for me. Okay, and that should come up live on our screens for us. Okay. So this is a really, really important question. Okay, I'm just going to log that. So we can see there that we're not, yeah, love that. So 80% of us don't even know, because we don't measure, right? Now, we're a service industry. Thank you very much for that, peeps. That's really important. So this is always my first question when I go into an organization, is what percentage of your members hit their goal last month? Now, there's ways that we can get this answer through Active Insights, and we can also get this type of information through ClubRight. Yep. Okay, but this is massive. We're in a service industry. If we're not measuring the reason why they joined, what service are you offering? Now, there's a load of other organizations that do this particularly well. If I joined Weight Watchers, do you reckon they'd know whether I hit my goal or not? If I was on Strava, Peloton, Hydrox, do you think they'd know whether I was improving and heading towards a goal that I have? Of course I would. So this is absolutely massive. Now, to not know this or to not measure it, I remember walking into a gym. This is a dead simple thing. They used to they didn't weigh people. One of the things they did is if you wanted to lose weight, they basically give them a piece of string, right? Piece of string, they put your name on it. And then what they do is they give you the string, they put it around your waist and they put a tag on it. The month later, they'd measure you again with this piece of string and they put another bit of sellotape on it. And I remember looking at this wall with 100 bits of 100 bits of rope on it. And it was like, you could see all the movements and it was like, wow, the impact it had was massive. Imagine if one of the goals was to lower someone's heart rate by 10 beats per minute. Now, in order to do that, they'd probably hit one of the goals, right? They'd probably end up losing weight. But if I could lower your heart rate by 10 beats per minute, over the next 10 years, I'm going to save you over, I think it's 52 million beats. Well, that's only one person. These are really powerful. Tell you what, all these messages I'm mentioning at the minute probably beat New Year, New You, Step into Spring, Summer Beach Body, right? It's like, wow, why don't we? If we use the goal, we'll get there. How much weight did your members lose last year? We don't know any of it. It's mental, and we should do. Interactions. So again, this is something that we can measure, and it's about knowing. So my example for this, I want my gym staff speaking to people. That's their job. Their job is to speak to people to make sure we know who's doing what, when, where, how, and that type of stuff. Okay, so the key behind this is that let's say my gym instructors speak to 10 people a day, right? So now anyone who's worked in the gym knows that I could do that in an hour, right? So I'm not pushing them too hard here. Right, but I'm basically saying if someone does something wrong, I want you to speak to them. So they should go over and correct them, right? Or ask them questions about the goal, not morning, but ask them an open question. What body part are you working on today? Are you any closer to your goal? How are you getting? Whatever, right? But the key behind it is what's the interaction. Now that 50 a day, sorry, that 10 a day is 50 a week. It's 200 a month. It's 2,400 a year. Now 2,400 interactions. I'm telling you now, will have a massive impact on the retention of your organization. So it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. Class capacities. So people always, this is normally a KPI, but they normally look at it backwards. So I'm going to explain the way that I used to teach my staff to do this. So when I used to work, my very first job as in the gym was in the Village Hotel, right? And we had a 5,000 member gym in there. And I learned this from the accommodation team. So the accommodation team used to want to fill their spaces, but they didn't do it by looking what it was yesterday or last week or last month. They looked forward into the organization and they said, right, here's the holes that we need to plug. Right. So to me, the KPI for class capacity should always be looking forward. It should be, what are we going to say on the tannoy to try and get people into this class? What are we going to give the people, how when someone swipes in at 4 o'clock, I'll be saying to everyone that swipes in at 4 o'clock, hey, have you tried this new class? It's amazing. Right. So what am I doing to fill those future spaces? So I can see these future spaces and I know people who came last week who aren't booked in yet. Can I send them some information via text to get them booked on? So everything I do in this KPI will be always looking forwards and not looking backwards. Exactly the same for utilization of space, whether it's a meeting room, whether it's anything, I've got to look forward, not backwards, because I can't try selling yesterday's space.
That's an interesting point about class capacities there you mentioned, Craig, is that, if you know what classes someone enjoys using, you can actually remarket that person within something like Club Light, of course, and be able to let people know, well, because this person liked this particular class, there's a new class coming up. You might actually want to join that one and get people engaged early on. Exactly what you just said, Craig. Well, it's future booking people,
Oh, but not only that way, you've also got, when they join with a goal, right? Now, if we've logged that goal, we might know that this class is going to help towards that goal.
Yep.
Right? It might be spinning. It might help them towards someone who wants to do a cycle ride or a sportif, or if they're doing triathlon or whatever. So the key behind it is that we've got so much information, you've got to use it. It's no good having it and not using it. That's criminal. Remember journey completion? I went into a site the other week that's been open for over 50 years. You said that they haven't quite got one yet. And I was like, you've definitely got a member's journey. You're just not in control of it. The member's journey is what is happening now. I went to another organization who told me they had a member's journey, but they didn't. They only had a sales journey. So after they paid, the journey stopped. And I was like, oh, that's really nice there. It's like, I was absolutely baffled by it. But the key behind it is that if 100 people joined last month, and look, I have another bugbear here. I have loads of bugbears. But one of my bugbears that comes out of this is this particular point, right? Is that the first stage of most people's journeys is to allow people not to have a journey because they've been to a gym before. Right now, you're not telling me you've got exactly the same kit. You know, they might have had Life, you've got Technogym, or you've got Matrix, or whatever it may be. But why would I not let them see the expert? It's like going to the doctors and not seeing a doctor, and just seeing the girl on reception and going, "Oh, she'll tell you what it is," because she's seen people walk in with a cold before. Right? It's mental. It's so. If 100 people join, what percentage of those people actually had an induction? How many have actually got to stage 2? Well, how many got to stage 3? And how many, you know, the journey should be going on forever, right? But how many people have reviews? Well, it's amazing. If I'm monitoring the interactions, how many of your staff booked someone back in for a review last week? Don't know. Okay. Madness, right? These are all really powerful bits and pieces. So member journey completion, absolutely, you've got to measure it. And attrition. Now, look, I'm a big fan. If I do those top 4, the bottom one changes.
Yeah.
So attrition to me is a little. I only put it on there because everyone wants to measure it, right? And they all want to measure it different as well, which baffles me as well. But the idea behind it is that if I monitor these top 4, this one will change. If you monitor this one, nothing really changes. Okay, so I'm not saying don't look at it. What I'm saying is that the top 4 are probably going to give you a little bit more gravitas. Okay, marketing. And this one, so campaign effectiveness. Now, Jules, this is really important, right? So there's a couple of ways we can measure it. Of course, we can measure the ROI. Now, let's say, for instance, I'm assuming that every single one of you does an ex-member campaign, right? Now, I know when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, but I'm just gonna make this assumption due to the fact that you can't not do it, right? So let's say, for instance, people left me 12 months ago. They probably went somewhere else because they tend to gym hop rather than stop. And if they stopped, they'll probably need to come back. And if they hopped, then you want to entice them back. So after 11 months of someone leave me, I'm going to send them an email to say, look, here's all the new changes we've done. Here's what we've got in the business. Can't wait to get you back. And here's a little bit of an offer to get you in. An ex-member campaign will get you a 4 to 7% return. So if I sent out 100 emails or 100, let's go letters. Let's go old school. Let's go letters, because that's data, right? But let's say I sent out 100 letters and that cost me £60. Okay. Now, if I got 4 to a 7% return, it's a no-brainer. You can't afford not to do this. Right now, let's bring it down to email, and it's much cheaper. It's a little bit less effective. It might go down to 3 to 6%, but you've got to measure that. But then what you also need to measure is, what are people saying about it? And don't forget, you know, when I've seen people do leaflet drops and kill the business. You must have seen this, Jules, with all the feedback that you get, right? Is that there's nothing worse. It's like when you've been a member of Sky for 15 years, you pay £500 a year, and then everyone else gets it for £10 because they're new, and you're like, wait there, you know, where's the loyalty in that? It doesn't make sense. So, you know, what Active Insights are amazing at for this is finding out what people actually felt about it. You know, what made them come in? What was the trigger? You know, was it, oh, do you know what? I just needed that final push. Was it the fact that, you know, I was an ex-member and I realized I need to do something, and that type of stuff. So please ask questions on that. Jules will give us loads on that as we get towards the end. Activity, socials, so we can measure that. I was in an organization the other day, brilliant. 42 posts they put on last month. 42 posts, and those 42 posts managed to get 7 likes, right? That teaches me that they're not putting on the stuff that people are bothered about. They were putting sales messages on there. It's educational, right? Most of your social media, especially things like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, that type of stuff, it's got to be educational stuff. I'm telling you now, if you put one on the top 5 diets, people will be interested in it, right? Because 70% of your members want to lose weight. If you put one on about, you know, some different gym techniques, or, you know, we're going to do one on pre-exhaust, or we're going to do one on negative reps, or that type of stuff is really powerful. But if you're not, now, it was funny, out of the 7 likes, if I took off their staff, they're down to 2. So you've got to measure whether these things are cutting the mustard. Oh, and please don't use your social media to tell people your service is crap. So what I mean by that is I went into another organisation, did an audit the other week, and out of their 28 that they had, 14 were telling them that services were not on or broke or not happening. There was even one organisation whose website was very nice and told them the pool was broke. Amazing. Yeah, it's exactly what you wanted. Imagine Next putting all ripped clothes in the window. But this is your shop window, your social. So really, really important. You've got to log the tasks and things that happen.
Craig, sorry, just before you move on to events, and they're both sort of combined really in terms of what I'm about to say, but we've seen to our consumer insight panel, we went out and asked consumers, what was important in terms of choosing their club and also in terms of retention. And club atmosphere came up in the top 3 for both in acquisition and retaining. And we were then able to look at the social media platforms that those consumers are on. And that's exactly to your point, isn't it? This is an avenue where you get to really highlight and celebrate the feeling of being in your club. And that why would you not want to be part of this? Kind of create a bit of FOMO almost. But again, to the first point here, really understanding where your consumers are, and then you can meet them there and attract the right people in, which ties into events.
Well, but you know what's mental, Jules, right? So, but if you think about the social, so if I'm thinking about joining the gym, I'm not going to look. I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to go to web pages. I might occasionally have a little bit of a look at Facebook, but I'm not going to become your Facebook. The people who are your members on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, they're your customers. So stop giving them sales messages and telling them there's better offers out there than what they're getting. It doesn't make sense. They want to know how they can get to their goal better. Now go and measure how many of your posts help them towards their goal. And I bet you it might be low, but it might not be. I might be wrong. But events ROI. So if you're going to go and do things, if you're going to go out the building and try and speak to people, if you're going to go and do like Heart Smart days in corporate organisations, is it worth it? Right? Did you get a return? Is it what happens? Was it planned well enough that you took some gym team and those messages went out before they got there? There was giveaways, there was prizes, all that type of stuff that generates these things. We used to do this in LA Fitness and Fitness First back in the day, and it's like there's nothing worse when someone goes, right, can you go to this building and you're on your own? Hello, no, hello, no. It's like, oh, stop it, just stop doing it. Either do it properly or don't. I'd rather you do one good one a month and someone go out and just not get it. So measure it. Okay, web traffic, yeah, nice, yeah. Is it getting better or not? We want to see whether we're converting people better more than whether we're just getting the traffic. But things like, I don't know what your SEO's like, but it's really important to do SEO, especially in the roles that you're in, and driving people in. But again, every now and again, drop in. I always used to do this thing. I'm a big fan of mystery shopping, right? So I'm a big fan. Every now and again, I'll just drop in. I'll get one of my mates to send an email in, and the next day I'll go, has anyone chased that fella? And they'd be like, oh no, I haven't had a chance yet. And you're like, okay, well, do you know he's already had 3 people come back from 3 other gyms, right? And so web traffic's really important, but what are you doing with the information that you're getting from it? Yeah, really, really key. Okay, last but not least, sales KPIs. So net movement. I remember having a row with a chief exec of LA Fitness, and they had an awards night. Some lad sold 243 in July. Now, July is not the biggest month, so that is a big sale. And this lad's up on the stage and he's got his trophy and he's shaking it around as if he's a hero. And I went up to the chief exec and went, see that lady over there? She only joined 70 last month, but she's much better than him, don't you? And he was like, what do you mean? And I went, well, he lost 276. He lost 33 members in his club last month. She only lost 42, so she gained 28.
Yep.
I was like, and you're rewarding the hero for losing people. The one who's got the plug out and is providing a really poor service is now getting a reward of everyone. I think we're rewarding the wrong things. So massively important. Net movement is, are we shifting? Now, if you're going to measure that, it's important that you also measure yield. So it's great that we put an offer on and we did £1 for a month and 700 people joined, but they're all going to hemorrhage out your business straight away and you're going to water your yield down. So it's knowing these two in conjunction with each other, absolutely essential. Activity levels. So I go into organizations who have sales teams who sit there waiting. I don't think I'd have those. I'll be honest with you. To me, the activity levels and, you know, what leads have they generated this month? How many calls have they done? How many tours have they done? What are the skill levels? Who's your best closer? Who's your best on the phone? Who's got the best show ratio? All this type of stuff. If you're going to do it properly, right? And by the way, I would definitely have salespeople, right? I would definitely have salespeople, but they've got to be driving sales. Right, not sitting there waiting for them. I went into an organization the other week who have salespeople, and 72% of their sales are done via reception. And I was like, well, why are your salespeople going home when all the sales come in? Anyway, different bugbear. Right, so that's really important. Data capture, measure it, just measure it. Do the odd call. If my wife calls in today, that should be logged on that sheet. I should be able to see that tomorrow. Right, so test it, make sure it's happening, because I'm telling you, you haven't got a 100% capture ratio. Referrals, so Wayne, this is a really key one, right? We were talking about this the other day when we were putting this together.
Absolutely.
And this loyalty, honest to God, it's one of my bugbears. You know, as an industry, what do your members get when they've done 100 visits? What do your members get when they've been there for 5 years? What do your members get when they refer someone, right? So these people who are driving our business, and we know that probably about 82% of sales come through referrals, right?
Yep.
So this is really, really important. But to not have a loyalty scheme, I don't
And the
get
thing
it.
is, it's also not to just give away money. Only so, I mean, although, you know, customers can do that by giving away money. So, you know, you recommend a friend, they get £1 off, and their friend gets £1 off. And if the friend leaves after 6 months, the member who recommended them, their membership automatically in the system goes back up by £1, which is all very nice. But if you think about e-points, the same idea is like an internal currency. So you're kind of giving something away to someone, or having the ability to spend points that have a higher value but a lower cost. So a protein shake could cost you 50p, but it retails at £3. You can give someone the ability to spend points every month and use that as a referral, but you're actually getting far less of a cost to your business, but a lot of value to the person who does the referral. So it's that's the kind of thing from loyalty. People are not actually as driven financially. It's like they like to be acknowledged by recommending their friend. It's more about kudos as opposed to the reward sometimes. Worth thinking about that, because sometimes we get drawn into, oh, give them a £25 M&S voucher. Oh, that didn't work. Let's give them 50 quid. Then you're on to £100. Before you finish, you're giving away hundreds of pounds and you're still not getting your end goal. It's a reality of how your referral program works and the reason why it works, not necessarily how much you're giving away. If that
For me,
helps.
the referral, if 82% of our sales are going to come through referrals, it makes sense that we try and control them, right? And you're dead right. You know, like you say, you know, the fact that I give £1 away, but I've just got £28 I would never have got, right? So it starts to make sense that you know that you do it in that way. But the referral side of things is huge, right? So you're also 76% more likely to reach your goals if you train with someone else, right? Because on the days you can't be bothered and they can, you end up going in, you'll try things that you wouldn't normally try. And he might, when you get to 11 and they say, go on, make it 12, right? There's a loads of reasons why we know that you get better results when you train with someone. So the best thing I can do for any member that's in my gym is get more of their friends in, right? Because then the community builds, everything else starts to grow with it. But you're right, I just don't get why we don't do loyalty. I find it strange. It's a bit like it's everything that annoys me about Sky we do, right? It's mental. Variance to budget, of course, but again, I'm a big fan of this one. If you do all the ones above it, this will change. Okay, so really, really important that we put that in there as well. And you've got to know whether you're heading in the right direction or not, which is really important. Now, why the balanced scorecard? So the way I see this, the way I see businesses happening is, so imagine those 5 departments. So let's say services, reception, let's say product is the gym, let's say operations is the duty managers, let's say sales is sales, and let's say marketing's probably sales as well, right? But the key behind it, if they've all got their 5 objectives, now they're only concentrating on the most important things. Now there'll be other things that they do. I'm not saying that's the only thing they do, but in terms of the rocks, they are it's the Pareto rule, right? 20% of the things give us 80% of the results. So it really makes sense if they all know that they're concentrating on the biggest bits. Now, you as the senior managers or the people who own the business, you can only really look at 5 things as well. So the balanced scorecard is, operations. So we go down to these sorts of departments that they've got. This will then give you as a business major focus, right? You know that every single person in your business is concentrating on the most important things. Absolutely essential. You also know who to give a pat on the back to. Right, again, massive, right? This is sitting down with the right people and going, right, that's absolutely amazing. What you're doing there is phenomenal. This is, to me, this is a tool to help people, not a weapon to hit them with, right? It's about giving them the tools to be able to do their job and to know that they're making a difference and where that all fits in. And obviously, we said right at the beginning about the direction. Now, a balanced score, look, if I do all these mind mapping things with organizations, but you can see in here within this operations order, there's 12 other things. The health and safety, there's 12 other things. Mystery shopping, 3. Feedback, at least 5 different things you should be concentrating on. Induction. So you can see in here, this is showing everyone what I call cause and effect. So let's say your overall business score, this month is 72%. Right now, you should be able to tell you exactly where you lost that 28. Okay, now if it's gone up to 73, I should know where that 1 came from, right? I should know exactly where my business is ticking over, and I should be able to drill down and get down to the individual and go, that is amazing. You were brilliant this month, right? You've dropped off. Let's try this. It happens. Don't worry. It's fine. We all have little patches where we go up and down. You've been off for 2 weeks, whatever it is. The key behind it, it's about knowing the cause and effect of. Now, we can't monitor what I call EPIs, which is every performance indicator, which is what I see all the time. I go in and you've got like 40 of them and I'm like, well, they're not live, right? So if we can see the cause and effect for the 25 most important things in your business, I'm telling you, your business is going to head in the right direction. I remember when I got this troubleshooting job for Fitness First, I went in, they used to give me basically the 7 worst performing sites in the UK, and I had 3 months to turn them round. I'd go in, and I remember within 2 months, I got 3 of them into the top 10. The chief exec said to me, what have you done? And I went, I've started training people. It's that boring. I've started training people and saying to people, right, you own this, you're brilliant at that. What in the future you want to go and work away abroad? Well, you're going to need to be able to sell stuff, right? You're going to come and help me with the referral team. What you want to run a bar, right? You need to control my stock so we don't run out of anything. You need to make sure everything's fixed. So it's about getting all these people's individual fires lit with all these things that we know that need doing. And the cause and effect is absolutely essential. Okay. What I'm going to ask for now is, are there any questions? So, Greg, have any questions popped up at any stage, mate?
They haven't, no, not at all.
Not a problem.
None at all, sorry.
So, Michelle, or we've got Ada, or we've got Ali. Do you want to fire anything at me, mate?
Obviously, you can unmute your microphones if that's easier. And you can just unmute your mics if that's easier.
I've been trying to speak about the difference between outcomes and well, KPIs. We've always looked at attrition, for example, and what we're trying to do is gather a bunch of KPIs around all the things that we can actually act on daily.
Yeah.
So how many calls, what percentage of calls are getting answered, how many onboarding emails are getting opened, and bringing them all together into what I realise is a scorecard.
Yeah.
What's my question? It's around about what your thoughts are on that, and how to communicate that, and to say, look, yeah, it is important that we look at attrition, but we're not going to get it down by looking at the graph and willing it to go further down the page.
Well, do you know, this is a perfect question, right? And to me, the KPIs, the key performance things that you should be monitoring, are the things that make the difference. So I remember when I was in LA Fitness, right? And I remember I had an area manager when I first got in there. The area manager, we need to do a budget review. And I said, why is that going to change it? Now, what actions are going to change the budget? What actions are going to change attrition? What actions are going to drive more people into the organization? So you concentrate on the right things, Al. You've got to concentrate on the things that make a difference. The problem is that you can't concentrate on all of them, right? So it's about now. When I work with organizations, I'll sit down with like a sales team, or I'll sit down with a fitness team, and I'll go, right, what's the most important? They know what's the most important stuff is. They know what's being ignored on a Sunday. They know that, one of my questions, so duty managers, right? How many people need to be in a queue on reception before they'll step in? Right? Well, it depends on who's in. Well, it shouldn't depend on who's in, right? It's so in terms of service or standards or all these different things, right? Is that we've got to have certain measures or things in place. If I want to improve service, right, I've got to have certain things in place, right? The problem is that everyone does this sort of scattergun thing, and that's the bit that gets me. It's, you know, there's two lots of people who are going to tell you how to run your business, right? One's your staff, and the other one's your customers. So, you know, Jules will tell you this till she's blue in the face, right? Your customers know what they want because they joined, right? We can assume we know what they want. We can, like, I assumed you'd know how many people would hit the goal, right? But 80% of us didn't, right? So the whole idea behind it is that you've got to concentrate on the bits that will make the difference. Yeah, and again, Jules, it's right, isn't it? Your customers know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're talking about delivering experiences, and you really got to be able to measure what you're managing here. I know it's cliche, but it's true. And I mean, you know, this isn't just directed at you, Ali. You know, we've had lots of conversations, don't we, around customer experience and how to measure it and really bring the team on that journey as well. But again, you know, our members are choosing us based on either our explicit marketing or, again, that word of mouth, and have a number of expectations. And then we need to deliver on that. But we need to measure, are we delivering on our promise, yes or no? And of course, NPS is a vital metric to really understand, are we delivering on our promise? And there's a direct correlation between member loyalty and business growth. So that's one of those key measures I would absolutely put into my balanced scorecard for sure.
And yeah, I think, you know, the key behind this is that, are you better this month than last month? Right? It's essential. It's, you know, now we're getting into, we're in the wind down. You've just had your second peak of the year, right? You've just had your September, October, right? You probably will have done 20-25% of the year's business. Now, in 2 months' time, because we're nearly in November now, January and February, you're going to do 40% of your business. How do you get that? This is why this is quite important. If we can use these next 2 months to make sure we're focusing on the rocks, the difference this makes, mate, is unreal. And it's about, you know, I always say this. So how do your staff, what does a good shift look like? So I ask staff this, and normally it's no one dying, right? But you get the idea. It's like, what does a good shift, how do I be good at what I'm doing? If I'm in fitness, how do I be, what's a good instructor look like? How do you measure a good instructor? Have they got a better attrition rate than everyone else in the organization because they do the best inductions, because they get more people booked back in for reviews? Well, if you're not, there's only two things you need, for any journey, there's only two things you need to know: where you are now and where you want to go. And we have to measure. We have to.
And I can't emphasize how important that measurement thing is, and not trying to do too much at the same time, because that becomes, it's all about, I mean, I'm sure many of you have heard the word Kaizen and continuous improvement, but measuring small amounts of things on a regular basis, then when you've seen that you might need to make a change for whatever reason that might be, you then measure that change and continue with it until you get something that's consistent. Diving in and changing everything, thinking that's the right thing. It's a bit like someone, you know, we talked about customer journey earlier, not just a sales journey, but a customer journey. I've seen so many customers in the past set up loads of automated emails with no real purpose at all. But they've actually had 20 emails, but actually having 5 would have been far more effective because they've looked at it, measured it, and know the outcome of it. It's very easy to set up and think you're changing everything, change small amounts of things and continuously measure. That whole Kaizen approach is something that I've lived by for so many years, is that, you know, you look at what you're measuring, but do small amounts. Just don't take on a mountain, because you'll end up becoming, we're not actually achieving a goal at all.
Well, it's funny, Wayne, productivity in the UK, right, since COVID is 52%. Right? So if you're only going to get your staff to do 50%, right, surely it's got to be on the most important bits.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And look, good staff might give you 65, 70%.
Yeah.
You know, let's not kid ourselves. We all have downtime. We all have a little coffee. We all have a chat by the water. You know, the waters. We all go into the staff room when we shouldn't go in. You know, all them different. So that's how the time gets sort of fizzled away. But are they doing the key bits? Can you honestly say, out of all the KPIs, they're definitely live? Though, and if they're not, we've just got to question it. We've got to question it in that sense. Any other questions off you lovely people? Okay, I've got another little poll for you. How did you find?
There is one. Sorry, there is a question in the chat, in the Q&A chat, which I've put in.
So okay, fire that at me, Greg. Fire that at me, please.
I can't see it, I'm afraid. So maybe...
okay. I'll voice it. I'll voice it.
Yeah, go on.
So here at Club Break, we deal with a lot of small startups, right? They're new to both business and the health and fitness scene in general. We kind of specialize in that. And in terms of KPIs for the uninitiated, what would be a recommendation for a top 3 for a brand new health and fitness business?
Okay, feedback, 100%. Feedback, to me, this feedback and how well trained are your staff. So I ask people this question all the time. We were at Jules, we were at one of your events the other day. It was amazing, by the way. And we kept asking people when they came in, how many procedures do you have? Loads. I was like, is loads 70,000? Is it 20? Is it 50? I said, why don't you know? You know, so it's really important to know what you need to train people in, right? And so to me, feedback is essential. Training people and making sure that they've been trained properly. And what did they join for? Right? There's 4 goals that people have when they join a gym. Right now, there's all the other lovely benefits. I can make new friends and community. There's 4 reasons why they will have signed up. Weight loss. So are they losing weight? Are they bulking or toning? Are they improving their health? Or sport specific, are they getting better at the goal that they're aiming towards? So there's the 4 reasons why people join. If you're not measuring them, you've got no idea how they're getting on, which is why they'll just leave. So you've got to measure them, you've got to know the feedback and what's going on, and you've got to train your staff properly in the first place. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I went into leisure, and I quickly realized that in McDonald's, they train you properly. Right. Yep. I was like, I came into leisure and it was like, wait, what? Because I've got an MVQ, I'm okay. I can just do whatever I want. It baffled me. So yeah, if there was only 3, now the way I'd break this down, Paul, is that if I've got 3 members of my team, they'd all have 3 each. There'd be 9 in that team at least. Now, if I can stretch them to 5, brilliant, I'll stretch them to 5. But the key behind it is that you've got to use the people that you've got. Oh, a lot of new gyms, they have the manager thinks it's their job to do everything. The sooner they realize that's a bad manager, because a manager's job is to get everyone else to do everything. So the key behind it is if you're needed as a manager, it's because you're doing too much. And you can't be a safety net in the business. So the key behind it is that depending on the number of staff or the departments or whatever it is you've got to break them down, and they need whatever's, but those 3 definitely. Hopefully that's helped.
Excellent. Thank you.
Now, there should be a little bit of a poll on your screen. If you'd like to give us a little bit, how have you find today's session? How's this been? Has it made sense? Have we gone through the right stuff? Is this sort of, do you think this would help people if we can do this type of stuff again? Has that come up for people?
Yep.
There we go. Okay, we've had some little votes. That's nice. That's a little starter. Okay, that's amazing. Now, to sort of, again, just to pull this together or to wrap it up a little tiny bit. So you just done the poll. So basically, would you like any more information off any of us? Right. So obviously, when this gets finished, I'm just going to launch another little poll for you. But when this gets finished, you're going to get an email with a copy of the infographic. There's going to be a copy of the KPI process. There's also going to be a little bit of a breakdown of the offers that we're willing to do because you've come on. So OpsPal 30% for life if you have a demo before the end of November. There's going to be a free software evaluation if you needed one from Clubright. And I'm telling you, you'll be blown away by how much you can save. It's ridiculous. I always get this with, how many times have we had this conversation, Wayne, where people, because they go out to tenders to the big ones, they think that they shouldn't look at yourself, and it's mental because yours has been built specifically for what you need, and it wasn't an old squash booking system. You get the drill.
Love that.
And obviously, there's the CX Roadshow, so the customer service roadshow that from Active Insight is there. So we'll send an email to everyone that's been on the session. But if you want any more information from any of our businesses, just so we can help you to try and do any of this stuff, the key behind it is, look, everything that we've talked through today, you should be able to do yourselves. If you want to do it quick and more effectively, it does make sense that you get people to help you a little tiny bit with it. So if you click on, you know, if you'd like help off OpsPal, Clubright, or Active Insight, just click on those. And then we know we're not going to pepper you, right? It's just about making sure that you're getting your follow-ups and your bits and pieces in there. Okay, so yeah, the key behind it, just let us know. We'll happily, you know, help and send stuff over to you. And yeah, we're glad you've enjoyed the session. We've, between the three of us, Jules, you know, any feedback or any wrap up from yourself, Wayne?
At the end of the day, just really found it insightful, yet again, looking at KPIs, and I think there may well be an awful lot here that you've heard of many times before. However, it's also one or two things that you decide to implement is the bit that makes a difference. There's some, you know, great context here, some great content, but unless you implement it, nothing's really going to change. And I think everyone, you know, OpsPal, Active Insight, and ourselves, you know, we're always keen to ensure our customers get the most from the experience we have, let alone just the products that we sell as well.
Said it better, Wayne. Absolutely. So really, just to echo your words, you know, we're here to support you guys. Sometimes it can feel incredibly overwhelming when you look at KPIs, but just reach out. We're always happy to jump on a call and just break it down and turn all of this into action. So yeah, great to see you all today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, people. As I say, you'll get a video, so everyone will get an email with all the information for the bits and pieces, a copy to the video and that type of stuff. Obviously, some people have clicked that they want information from other people, so we'll send that stuff over for you. We're not going to pester you at all in any way, shape, or form. Hopefully, you'll understand that what we like to do is educate people, and we want them to, you know, run their businesses better. And between us, it's quite bad, but there's probably about, just me and Wayne alone, about 60 years worth of experience. Jules, you're 65 if you include Jules, because she's young. Right, but yeah, thanks very much for your time. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you ever need any more information, please give us a call or give us a shout.
Fantastic. Cheers.
Brilliant.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Jules, I'll send the link over now and we'll jump on.
Lovely.